The following podcast will discuss active shooter events that have occurred in schools from 2000 to 2013. We will go over some of the key findings in this brief podcast. When we talk about school active shooter events, there are two main types of locations. First, we assess events that occurred in schools that house students enrolled in kindergarten through 12th grade. There was only one location where the school housed students from all grade levels. The rest of the K through 12 attacks occurred at schools that were distinctly elementary, middle, or high school, and we will present the data in this manner throughout. In total, there were 24 attacks that occurred in schools that house K through 12 students. The second type of school location are institutions of higher education. Institutions of higher education include colleges, universities, and trade schools. These locations are fundamentally different from K through 12 in that the students are adults, and the campuses are generally open. By open, we mean that students, staff, faculty, and visitors can readily come and go from campus throughout the day. There were 12 attacks that occurred at institutions of higher education from 2000 to 2013. Including both location types, there were a total of 36 events that occurred on school locations from 2000 to 2013. This chart illustrates how the events are distributed by year. As seen here, there doesn't appear to be a trend to the way the events are distributed. Though there were 6 events in 2006, there were several years where there were only 1 or 2 attacks. Much like with other active shooter locations, there is not a profile for the shooters. The current graphic shows that the race of the shooters is distributed in a similar fashion to the population. The age of the shooters ranged from 13 to 62, and 34 of the 36 shooters were male. Shooters used a variety of weapons during their attacks. These can be disaggregated into 3 categories of most powerful weapon used, with pistols being the least powerful and rifles being the most. As seen in the graphic, pistols were the most powerful weapon used in a majority of the attacks. Sometimes, shooters had multiple weapons. Specifically, 15 of the 36 shooters were armed with more than one weapon. This equates to 42%. As an example, if a shooter had 2 pistols during the attack, this would be categorized with the most powerful weapon being a pistol. However, if the shooter had a pistol and rifle, it would be categorized with the most powerful weapon being a rifle. There were a total of 217 victims shot during active shooter events in school locations. The current graphic illustrates the breakdown of victim counts by location type. As seen here, institutions of higher education accounted for the highest number of total victims shot with 107, 57 of which were killed. However, 49 of these victims came from the attack on Virginia Tech. This graphic shows the relationship between the shooter and victims. We captured 3 main relationship types: students, represented in blue, employees in red, and shooters with no relationship to the attack location in yellow. As seen here, elementary schools were generally attacked by shooters with no direct relationship to the school. However, as seen with middle and high school locations, as the age of the students increases, so does the percentage of attackers that are students. Institutions of higher education were the only places to experience shooters from all 3 relationship types. This figure shows how the events ended. The left side of the figure shows the events that concluded before law enforcement arrived on scene, while the right side of the figure shows how the events ended after the arrival of law enforcement. As seen here, nearly 2/3 of the attacks ended before law enforcement arrived. When you look at the left side of the chart, you will see that half of the events ended when the shooter committed suicide. However, the other half ended through civilian interdiction. Once law enforcement arrived on scene, shooters stopped by themselves 7 times, while law enforcement interdicted the remaining 6 times. This chart illustrates the importance of civilian response to active shooter events, with 1/3 of the events ending through the direct action of civilians. This podcast was a brief description of active shooter events in educational settings. For more information, please see the research section of the Alert website at alert.org. There you will find detailed summaries of these events, as well as a full research article. You'll also find other podcasts detailing the research results from multiple studies conducted at Alert.